G'day guys, I'm Grant from Living Like Kings. I just thought I'd jump on to give you a bit of a review on our canopy on our truck. We absolutely love it. It's been a little while. We had it put on about a year ago now. So we've lived out of it for about a year and mate, it's just awesome. So much easier to live out of, to work out of, to travel out of, to storing and carrying a whole bunch of stuff. This one in particular, we've been extremely happy with. And let's just get into what we got, why we got it, and any sort of things we would change, problems, things I love about it, things I don't like about it. Well, let's get into that. So what we got and why. Okay, so the truck you see behind me started life as a pretty bog standard 2017 F350 with a style side tub and fiberglass canopy. It was a pretty cavernous space in terms of canopy. It was a big space that you just couldn't really utilize that well. For just throwing a whole bunch of stuff in and keeping it out of the rain while you drive from A to B, perfect. Touring out of, it can be done, sure, but boy, it doesn't really make things that easy. So we wanted to find a company that was going to be as customizable as possible. And we definitely found that in Concept. What you want is what you will get. I've never dealt with a company that will bend over for you and just do things the way you want it. Sure, they might throw a couple of cents in here and there just to sort of make sure that what you're getting is the best it can be, but they listen to you and they will do their best for you. And this was no exception. We are floored by the look of it. It's light. I'll put in how light it is here. The cost of the canopy really depends on, it's a bit of a case of how long's a piece of string. Because it's so customizable, it really depends on what you want as to how much it's going to cost. So I was actually pretty modest with mine. I'll show you through in a minute. It's pretty basic. I didn't do the full 9 yards that a lot of people have done. My goal, I wanted the most out of my massive payload capacity on this vehicle that I could possibly aim for. And I did pretty well, I've got to say. Pat on the back for me. Another thing we liked about this particular style of canopy was the actual design itself. If you'll notice, there's a little black vent there on the door, and there's one on the driver's side at the rear. Now what that does is it scoops up air from the outside, pressurizes the internal, and escapes. So that creates a pressure seal right around here. So the door actually sits proud of the actual canopy itself. Now we haven't had any dust in here. We've had plenty of dust around the seal, but not in the canopy. The dirt that gets in the canopy is the dirt that we throw in there with all of our stuff that I just haven't been careful and cleaned up before I chucked it in there. So I'm loving that. Absolutely loving that. It's a full customizable design as well. So you can have quarter, 3/4, full length. You can have an overhang here of the actual tray itself. Have the saddle boxes. You can not. You can do whatever you want inside, pretty much. It's also got full central locking, and we love that. I'll show you one thing that I really, really love. Now, most canopies will have a whale tail lock here and a whale tail lock here. You gotta turn them and then pull them out. I don't have them. One-handed, mate. Up she goes. How good's that? So easy. So if you've got your fishing gear in one hand, you open the door with the other. Chuck it in. So good. Another thing that will dictate what you're going to spend is obviously what vehicle it's going on, how big you want it. It all comes into play. For us, we have a pretty decent sized truck. It's 2017 F350. She's big. It needs a big canopy, and that's okay because we live on the road full time, so we need the space. Now we've got 2250 in length, we have 2020 in width, and we also got 990 in height. So that's pretty big, and we love it. Now we also got a 60 litre water tank put on too, and I actually, for some reason, I always thought they had a 40 litre tank, which is okay, but when I wanted to empty it, I'm like, man, it's just coming out forever. It's 60 litres, so I was wrong. Okay, so now we'll just go inside the canopy for a spell. You'll notice that we don't have an upright fridge, and that's just completely, again, our preference. Most people tend to run an upright fridge. Now we travel full time on the road with our Caravan, and we just don't need that extra fridge space is what we've found, but we do need extra freezer space. So that's why we already had the fridge. Keeping in mind also, when we were building the truck, we had a budget. We sold our house, this is it. So we didn't want to spend all that money. We're not completely silly. We try not to be anyway. And we just wanted to stick to a budget. We already had the fridge, so we decided to stick with it and use it as a freezer. And we can be more off-grid that way. We can store more food. When we went to Gari, we just lived out of the truck and we used it as a fridge. So we have that option. It's great. Now, we also added the top shelf. The top shelf is great for the extra long bits. For example, up here I've got my snorkel gear, I've got my pool noodles, shower. I usually carry my tent up there and things like that too. Down below we have the pantry and just like an additional table. It's a little bit grubby. That's the reality of things, isn't it? This is one of my favorite things. It's the right height for me. Now, I'm also a bit on the tall side. So I'm 6'7" if I stand up straight, which I don't always, because the world seems to make me hunch just to, fit in. But anyway, not the truck though. Got plenty of room, loving it. Actually, it makes me feel a bit more proportionate, a bit more normal. These are the things that we love. All of these are on Teflon slides. They could do with a bit of a greasing, but they are so good. There's nothing to really go wrong with them. You can load them up and they're still going to slide because they're on Teflon. You don't have to worry about rollers breaking and things like that. So miscellaneous pantry stuff and then camping stuff down there. Fishing rod holders. And we've got this big old space here for extra payload. Supplies, bags of dog food. We travel with 2 dogs. UHT milk, we can throw a few slabs of that in there as well. You'll notice as well, I have in the back there, our outboard motor slide. Now I'll show you that now. Alrighty, so on what I call my side of the canopy, this here is our outboard slide. So I just chuck it on there, tighten it up, lift it up and run it in. Then I just throw a few straps over it. I've got a little bit of a blue pad here. That's just for the motor itself to rest on, so it's not being scratched on the rear grate. Our canopy has the ability to charge off 240 volt. So we have at the back an inlet just under the camera, which runs up to here to our Victron Blue Smart charger. So that'll actually run the charging to our 125 amp hour EnerDrive battery that we have on board. We had that in our previous Land Cruiser, so we just chucked it in here. Again, on a budget. We are only running a 1000 watt inverter at the moment. It's doing us for the time being. I mentioned before that the Canopy does come with central locking, and it's hooked up to the vehicle central locking. It's not a separate system, which is something that I don't know why a lot of companies don't do. If you needed an extra fob, who cares? That's fine. I would have been happy with that. When we were looking, they weren't keen on doing central locking, and that was, for me, the biggest thing. Because you're in and out of these things, trust me, you want central locking, because it just makes things so much easier. Say, for example, you've gone inside for the night and you've been working around the truck, and you go, oh, I need to lock the canopy. You just reach over and boop, boop, and lock it. If you don't have that hooked up to your canopy, you're going out and you're manually locking everything, and that will get old. That will get old real quick. Absolutely loving it. Now, having said that, I don't have central locking to the toolboxes, which is not a huge deal. I use these compartments for things that I don't need all the time. So locking them and unlocking them when I need it, that's not a huge deal for me. One thing I really, really wanted for a long, long time was a trundle tray. How good is that? All my recovery gear, it's locked away safe, out of the elements. It's not taking up room in the canopy for all my living and tools and stuff. So all my camping gear, it's not mixed up with all my recovery gear. If it's a little bit sandy or wet or whatever, I can chuck it in here and I'll clean it out later. I've always wanted one of these. I finally got it and I absolutely love it. You definitely want one of these. Another thing too is what I'll show you back here is this plate here didn't exist. When the guys mounted the canopy, there was just a void. It was a big old void. They all identified that right away and went, that looks crap, we need to do something. And this is the day I'm supposed to pick it up. So they asked me to wait an extra hour or so. They identified that morning and went, nah, we can't let Grant take it the way it looks. Let's cut a piece out. We'll send it to powder coating. We'll fast track it. We'll get it back here. We'll get it fixed. And they filled in this space, which is great because it just finishes that space. They've also mounted on the side here is all the sensors for the parking sensors and the driving sensors. Up here we have the 240 inlet for charging and the fuse. The camera, that's been so good. That's been brilliant. A lot of people will put a ladder and a second wheel here. I still might. So they gave me the option so that they still left these rubbers up here so that, and I guess the tire or the wheel support underneath the jerry can holder, just so that if I get another wheel, I can just take this off and chuck it on. The things that I discovered that I didn't get but probably should have in hindsight is, firstly, on the drawer carcasses, I probably should have gotten some sort of carpeting protection. I was adamant that I wanted mill finish, and it looks great at first. Once you start traveling, it gets scuffed, it looks a bit crappy. To the guys' credit, they're like, are you sure? All right, fine, that's what we'll do. They knew better, and sorry guys, I should have listened to you. You were right. The other thing that I didn't get, that I wasn't offered, but I probably should have thought about, is tie down points. I would have loved to have had tie down points on top of the driver's side drawers so that I can secure things on top of it a lot easier. Also, just securing things in the main payload area behind the drawers and in between the outboard motor. They would have been really good. The next thing that I thought I should have gotten that I didn't is, for a similar reason, is the doors. The inside of the doors, have developed some scuffs as well because of the lack of tie down points. Things were sort of shifted around, they rubbed. To sort of stop that from happening, but also insulate the actual canopy itself, I would have, and still might, put on a bit of insulation, like carpeted insulation. They offer that at Concept, and I should have thought of that. Just looks a bit nicer, and it does sort of keep a bit of the heat out, or a bit of the cold if you're going down south, and stops a bit of the rubbing and scuffing and all that sort of stuff. So it looks a bit prettier for a bit longer. Also on that with the temperatures is we haven't really noticed things getting that hot in there. Now, I feel like there's two reasons for that. It's that big shelf on the inside with all the gear on top. That's probably going to reduce a bit of the heat coming in through the roof. And also you have, well, we usually run my 376 Mako Craft roof topper up there on the roof rack. That'll probably go a fair ways to keeping the heat off the roof. So I feel like that does help with the heat. However, the lack of insulation on the doors, things probably still get warm, but not necessarily hot. Our Waco, we haven't seen any evidence of it struggling or frosting over or anything. So I feel like we've gotten pretty lucky with that. It's would be working a treat. When we got the canopy, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Admittedly, there was a few hiccups, and that's always going to be the case. I do not blame Concept for this, because they were brilliant with everything that I had brought up that wasn't right or that I was missing. The biggest thing that I love about this company is that they really do care. The after sales is amazing with these guys. They really care. They're passionate about what they do, and they want good quality stuff coming out of their factory that everyone is happy with, rolling down the street so that people go, man, that's bloody nice. And that's really what has been happening with this, because people have pulled me up, had a look and gone, that's not bad. The things that we found that were missing, or I guess you could say some negatives, was when we got the truck, the canopy was missing this drawer. Sorry, the table. So I called Jake up and said, mate, I've got a problem. The table that seems to be on the invoice, it's not on the truck. I've also got a problem with the boat winch. So the winch on the front of the boat loader, that's not necessarily them. They fitted it, they wired it, but they didn't actually supply it or build it themselves. It was a Mean Mother winch with an Almac boat loader, which apparently they fitted, they shipped here. I had a problem with it. Concept sorted it out for me. They put in the table and they set it inside the actual drawer. And it's just hard as nails. It's great. It's just so good. We love it. The other thing was the actual the outboard slide. The outboard slide was, once the engine went onto it, it was flimsy. There wasn't enough. There was 4. 2 at the front, 2 at the back, and that was supposed to hold the weight sitting on top of it from doing this. Well, it just wasn't. So I identified that with those other 2 problems. I called Jake, mate, I'm experiencing this. What can you do for me? He goes, get it up here and I'll sort it out for you. So I did, and this is what happened. Okay, so we went from, I think it was 4, maybe 6 bolts. So there was 2 here, 2 there, and 2 there. Now I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. She's solid as. Now, I was under the belief that I was getting an Almac boat slide. I don't know why. I think there was a little bit of a communication breakdown, just because when you're planning a canopy out, it has to be months if not a year or so in advance, because they can be so busy, is that some things sometimes get lost in translation because you're communicating primarily over email. Now, I thought that I was getting an Almac boat slide, and I ended up getting this, which looks pretty basic, but that's what I like about it. And it is really strong. Now that there's twice the amount of bolts holding it down, she's solid as a rock. And I would prefer this now, because I've seen other travelers with the same trucks, with the same canopies, running around up north, over in WA and stuff, and I think I'm a little bit biased, but I prefer this. So this is built by Concept. It's sort of Jake's design, and he sort of had to persuade me a little bit, and I'm glad he did, because I love it. So thanks, Jake. It's a bloody ripper. Another thing that I really love about this canopy is that it just looks streamlined. So there's no filler caps that are just sitting out here and flapping in the breeze. There's no, so that people can come along and either fiddle with my fuel and potentially sabotage it or steal it. Oh, it's just, I don't get people sometimes, but it's happened. Thankfully not to me yet, but it shouldn't now, because it's hidden in there. This vehicle runs AdBlue, so I've got the diesel and the AdBlue taps right here, the filling points rather, right here. When they were added, they were still factory, and they were sitting on a different angle to what they were with the old style side. Now that led to a bit of a problem. The altered angle was now restricting the filling. So I was getting backflow, and it was being a pain to fill up. So with a few of the things that we needed to go back to Concept and have them fix for us, or rectify, or add, was these fuel lines. What they did was they just took the filler line out and upgraded it to a wider diameter, so that it would compensate for the angle and there'd be no backflow or reduced backflow. I haven't had a problem really with them since. That was a problem, it was fixed, and I haven't looked back. Another thing I had the guys change for me was the exhaust pipe. It's coming out here, and boy, if I've got the vehicle running and I need to use the air compressor, which is in this compartment here, you need to leave the vehicle running. So there's piping hot gas coming out of this. What I noticed with the doors on the other compartments, they all sort of just drop right down. And when this was doing that, it was heating up pretty quick. So the time that it would take me to pump up 8 tires, yeah, I didn't love that. So what they did, they just put this little cable in for me, solved the problem, haven't had a problem since. So what I will say as well is that when you're designing a canopy or anything like this, it's so easy to get caught up with what everyone else is doing and not necessarily what might suit you. And that's what happened to me a lot. Now, I did fight it a fair bit too, so I didn't go the upright fridge. I went what I had. I didn't go the big battery setup. I went with what I had. And it's worked for me. Occasionally, I'm still sort of wanting more, but do I need it? Not really. Will I need it? Who knows? I might be able to afford something better or more later. But for the time being, I'm pretty happy. My advice would be to really think about what suits you, forget about what everyone else is doing, and just go off what suits you, what you need, what will work for you, and then just go from there. She's a bit rough now after a year, so this is what to expect, all right? So when you're designing things, I'm hoping that showing you mine is going to give you some information and that will alter a bit of thought processes. So if you're worried about a few scratches and stuff, carpet most of it. I wouldn't carpet the floor personally. I just think that that's slightly problematic. Just, you're going to put things that are dirty in the back. It's just how it is. You're going to do it. I don't want to be vacuuming crap out of my carpet all the time. I haven't cleaned this that well because I wanted to show you what the reality is after living in it for a year. And using it for a year. And I'm not necessarily unkind to anything. I'm realistic. And there are scuffs, there are scratches, because that's just life. That happens, right? If I need to sell it one day, hopefully not. Yeah, sure, I might get it carpeted or something like that. So we'll see how we go. Now, also after about a year of travel, you will get some chips missing out of the paint. So where we've had problems at the front of the toolboxes, just down here. So as you can see, there is some dimpling, some stone chips. Now, I guess it's just a downfall of having that nice painted look down low. It's just going to happen, and I think there's not much you can do about it apart from getting, say, I don't know, like that PVC coating that you can put on it, the self-healing stuff. How that would fare with the amount of chips and dimpling that this thing has, I'm not sure. I have no doubt that it would reduce it, but whether it would stop it completely is arguable. It's just some of the stone chips is the only problem we've really had with it, just on this side, and that's about it. I feel like it's fared pretty well. Another aspect as to why it's fared so well is that I've also taken care of it. So we have seen people with similar canopies that have just driven just too fast on rough roads and have done some damage. Like they've actually put cracks along these uprights here, and that's no easy thing to do. So you got to be driving pretty quick on some pretty rough stuff to be doing that. I just don't do that. Like, these things are too much money for me to be doing that, and I might baby it a little bit, but it's my baby. I have to take care of it, so as much as I can within reason. Okay, so any likely additions that we might add or make to the canopy, I would say tie down points. I might add a couple of extra work lights around the outside of the canopy. I found that when we were on Gari camping out of the canopy, a few extra external lights would have been handy, and I should have thought about that, and I might add that later on. Maybe ones that I can control from the inside. So I have a bit of a control panel or switch panel just there. So I've got the up and down with a dimmer, on and off. So as you can probably see there, got the white, got the amber, not so bright, really bright. I've loved it. It's been really, really good, but I would prefer to have a little bit extra light at night time. If I'm in a bit of bush mechanics mode and something has happened and I need to fix something well into the night, at least I've got a bit of extra light around the vehicle that I could work on. So I might do that. Another addition may be a water pump from the 60-litre tank that's beneath the canopy. I did think about that originally, and I thought that would be a good idea. It's gravity fed at the moment, and I haven't had any problems with it. I think where I hesitate is that most of the time I'm just using the gravity feed into a billy or into a jerry, or washing my hands after I've just hitched or unhitched or whatever. So I don't think that a pump is 100% necessary. However, when we were up at Colombaroo, we're at Honeymoon Bay, and I put the boat in, I would really have loved to have just given the boat motor a bit of a better rinse with the onboard water, just to sort of keep a bit of the salt at bay. And I did, but it would have been better if I had a bit of a pump and a bit of pressure just to sort of wash it down a bit better. And maybe a hose that I could just grab from here, come around to the back of the truck, and then just sort of plug it in, flip the switch on the inside and give myself a shower or something like that. So they're the things that I've learned about the Canopy since we've had it done, and I think those are the few additions that we might add. So lights, water pump, tie down points, and maybe a bit of insulation on the doors. All right, so overall, we're super stoked with our Canopy. We absolutely love it. It has ticked all the boxes for weight, for budget, for layout, for customization, for fit out, for after sales service. And it's just great to be dealing with a good Aussie company. This company in particular has just been so great to us. They've been understanding, they've changed things, they've fixed things, they've replaced things. They've gone out of their way to make us happy. I have heard of people spending a lot more. So this is just shy of 40K, the way we've got it. Now, that's not to say that your Canopy would cost as much. It might cost half as much because you might have half a size Canopy. You might be putting it on the back of a Hilux or something. So it may cost you a lot less, or it might cost you roughly the same because you want to put more stuff onto it. It really depends on your preference and your design and what suits you. We love this Canopy, and if I ever do another truck, I know who I'm going straight to get what I want out of it. A massive shout out to Jake and the crew at Concept Canopies. You guys are awesome. We're absolutely thrilled with your work, and we love our Canopy and our truck because of that. Also, we're not affiliated with these guys. They were just great, and I feel like it's the least I could do apart from paying to give them a shout out. That's how happy I am with them. I kind of want to build another truck just so I can work with them again, but I'd have a hard time getting rid of it. I do like it a lot. Anyway, guys, that's our run through for the Canopy. If there's any more questions, please drop them in the comments below. Thank you for watching this all the way through. Another thing you could probably do too is if you were planning a Canopy build and you wanted to run something past me, just because I've already done it, feel free to. If you've got any more technical questions, get in touch with Jake and the boys. They are super duper helpful, and they'd be pretty stoked to be talking to you. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one, and please like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you guys.